Hello, everyone. Justin Bradford, Penalty Box Radio, and online with me right now is Eric Kaehr with Warhorse Ventures. Big news that we've seen plenty of times coming about potential for a rink and a full sports facility coming to South Williamson County by the Ag Center there. So, Eric, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thank you for having me today, Justin. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's just start off with the quick things first. Is that what inspired you to come up with this plan and wanting to put a rink and a full sports facility with potential for soccer and volleyball, basketball, and everything in retail in this area? Just what kind of came about to make this plan happen?
Um, it, it's it's it was actually a friend of mine whose son is very involved with youth hockey here in Nashville, and he and I were talking in the office, and he was just saying how difficult it was for them as a hockey family to constantly travel out of market, to not have enough time on ice, how people were putting ice in their backyard or on their property, or flying different places to get their kids ice time. And I have a 5-year-old son. He's about to be 6 next month. I grew up in South Bend, Indiana. My loyalties, I think, changed from the Blackhawks to the Red Wings during the great shift of players in the late '80s, early '90s. And my wife being from the Nashville area, we've been huge Predators fans since the team came to market, and we're hockey people. And hearing what Bob said, and then hearing the issues that were going on, and the fact that I have a 5-year-old that frankly I'd like to get on skates, it just started to become what typically happens with developers, and the fact that we're problem solvers and we have to try to figure out how to make things happen in areas that are void. And when you look at Franklin in general, when you look at Williamson County, by the release of the 2020 census next year, we're going to end up being most likely the 6th wealthiest county in the country. The fact that we don't have sporting facilities both to serve hockey players as well as the Sports Authority so adequately found in their feasibility study a couple years ago, that there's not sports for kids in general. The light bulb just couldn't have shown any brighter, and we started actively looking for a site that could support it both with infrastructure, future growth, and where we felt like the growth pattern was happening in Franklin.
I mean, that makes a lot of sense, and I got to mention too, I grew up a Red Wings fan as well because I'm originally from Michigan. So Steve Yzerman has definitely been my sports hero ever since.
Yeah. My heart broke a little bit when I was a child when they traded all my favorite Blackhawks players to the Red Wings, and so when you're a kid, it's less about team. I think at least it used to be, and it was more about player, and so that was a pretty devastating moment for me as a hockey fan.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, getting someone that loves the sport is obviously very important for a facility like this to happen. So, what went behind the design of this thing and what you wanted to see in it as well? Because when we saw the pictures, I mean, having a big arena with it as well, but also having all the other parts of this rink too, including areas for soccer, the upper area, for basketball, volleyball, just basically making it a huge complex. What went behind the design of putting all these sports and encompassing all this in there to make sure it's going to be a perfect facility for you?
Yeah, I do have to give a really big shout out to the County Sports Authority. I mean, they were, Rogers Anderson, the mayor, and I'll give a shout out to Franklin too. I think Mayor Moore's been involved in this conversation multiple times as well. That with our, in areas of Franklin and Williamson County in general, we have double-digit both population growth and income growth, and those are unheard of numbers when you look at major metropolitan markets throughout the country. There are very few that match our level of growth, and the ability to take a parcel of land and develop it into something that meets the needs that they had found before I got involved, frankly, and then to maybe bring forward some additional ideas like adding some retail to it, for walkability's sake for people that are on the site for practices or games or tournaments. But it was really to serve as many sports as we possibly could. We originally started with the hockey facility because that's how the conversation started, and then in conversation and the feasibility study found that there really was no true indoor sports facility for Williamson County, coupled with where this site sits, just north of it, about a mile and a half. The city of Franklin, kudos to them, has made a very large commitment to Southeastern Park that is now fully funded in their growth plan to bring outdoor sports and outdoor areas to the city on the east side of 65. I'm not sure why 65 kind of serves as a dividing line, but most people who live on the east side, would prefer to, drive and be closer to that area and have amenities there. I think it just, fighting, going all the way over to Jim Warren is difficult for a lot of those families over there. I live in Berry Farms currently. I go through the same thing. So, I can walk out my front door and see where this complex is going to be. The need for additional sports became very, very apparent. We've had a massive outpouring for the multi-sports complex on top of hockey. So really, when you look at the development, it's bookended by these two facilities, and then retail in the middle with very thoughtful approaches to parking and lighting to minimize any noise and impact to the adjacent neighborhoods. So, I think that really it was a form and function that we just don't have anything like this, and we're trying to drive the ability for kids to play both indoor and outdoor.
And you kind of brought it up there at the end of your answer there too, and to follow up with that as well, because it's near neighborhoods and it's in an area that is obviously growing and bustling with plenty of homes, but also with the ag center and everything too. So, well, how important was it for you to make sure that you were doing everything possible to make sure this facility, whether it comes with lighting, with traffic, things like that, fit into the neighborhood and didn't cause much of a disturbance to the neighborhood? And what steps were you taking to make sure that was happening?
Yeah, I mean, both on design and on layout, we want to be good corporate or good community stewards, excuse me, to the members around us. We know that there's a lot of young families in Lad Park. We know that there's a lot of young families in the neighborhoods up Carruthers Parkway and Berry Farms and in Stream Valley. But aside from that, across all of Williamson County, the demographic is young, and there's young families, and we wanted to be able to provide this, especially adjacent to Lad Park, but not to create good transition to what the future of the Ag Center is going to be, which is zoned regional commerce, which will end up being very high density uses, large grocery stores, discount stores, general retail, hotels, restaurants. That will end up developing at some point in the future. So we wanted to create a good transition for the neighborhood. Also serve the fact that Franklin has made a commitment to the outdoor park up the road, so it creates good transition, but not loom over the neighborhood, not provide additional noise, not provide additional light pollution. So we've made significant investments into the lighting in this development, called dark sky lighting, which eliminates horizontal light pollution. It shows lights downward. It shines light down. We've made a significant commitment to buffering and putting in hills or berms between us and the neighborhood. We've committed to give up essentially 5 acres of developable land to put in mature reforestation, mature trees and shrubs and bushes, as well as a 6-foot sound dampening fence. So we have listened to the community. We want this to be something that's not only successful, but is good for walkability, for their home values, and to make their daily lives better, not worse. So there was a lot of things that they asked of us, and we will continue to take feedback from them to make the development better. But the goal here was to really put something in the community that served them well, but also gave us an ability to be good community stewards.
And surely that's going to make people hopefully feel a little bit better about that too, just know the investment in it and wanting to be good community partners, because hey, this is good for not just that community but the entire community and hockey community and sports community in general. So I'm sure that means a lot to folks.
Yeah, and just really quickly, I mean, to give you an example, I mean, we started this process almost a year ago. We've had countless meetings, both with the city, with planning commission, with the neighborhood, and any additional meetings that we're having right now are voluntary. That we just want to continue to be good, good community stewards, like I keep saying, and asking for feedback from the community to make this development more successful. We're obviously not going to be able to incorporate every single thing, but we're really striving to make this something that excites people and that they can get behind.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the Sports Authority earlier, and it was a big deal a couple years ago when Williamson County formed the Sports Authority, knowing that they had to have that in order to have a big facility happen, because it needs to be a partnership amongst private and public and everything. So, I guess one of the questions is too, in terms of funding and everything, is how is this venture going to happen? What's going to make it be successful to make sure that this becomes a reality in the near future?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, just to be fully transparent, the city is not involved. The county is not involved in this at all. The Sports Authority offered their advice. They offered up resources that we could use for research. But aside from that, it was merely a sounding board. And this is a fully private transaction. So we have a group of investors that are very excited about the project. That are involved in it, and we have additional capital partners that we're bringing on all the time. I wouldn't compare it to the Nashville Stars, but on a very small scale, it kind of feels that way. It's starting to reach trajectory, I think, in that aspect. But as far as its success, everyone kind of goes back to A Game and what happened with A Game here in Williamson County. They talk about how it and I'll use air quotes, went belly up. And that's not really true per se. I mean, they're still operational. There's still sports going on there. It just was a scenario where I think, the second operators that stepped in the door maybe struggled a little bit. I think there was some things that, and I don't want to get overly political, there's some things that happened within, hockey and the facility and the community that caused some struggle. But in order to avoid that, we are bringing in, just to take a step back, a lot of these facilities, if they are in the community, are publicly run, right? So you have to form a board like the Sports Authority to make these buildings successful in the long run for people that know and understand sports management. It's a business. If you just play a sport, that doesn't mean that you're going to necessarily step in and walk into a development and make it successful, into a business and make it successful. So we're bringing in a partnership with sports facilities management or sports facilities companies. They're based out of Florida. They were established in 2003. They've guided over 2,000 community projects, overseen about $10 billion in sports developments. Currently, they manage venues and host more than 25 million visits annually. Last year, they drove almost 200 million in overnight stays in hotels. And frankly, they're what I would consider to be the best of the best when it comes to youth and amateur sports. You are only as good as your programming and your operations with these types of developments. And we really have brought in the best of the best to work with us and to ensure that this is successful. They're very excited about it, and they've seen every facility under the sun and feel like there's been such a need here in Williamson County and in Franklin for such a long time. And the fact that they can be a part of it, they're just as excited as we are. So their buy-in on this operationally is huge, and I think will drive programming and will drive the success of this project. I live in this community. My office is in downtown Franklin. This is a part of my legacy for my company, for my family. I want it to be as successful as humanly possible. So we are doing everything we can to get the right operators, the right partners, the right capital partners involved to drive this to be successful, not only now, but when you drive down Long Lane 50 years from now.
And you hit the nail on the head when it comes to demand, because Williamson County is like the home of high school hockey, it seems, here in the Nashville area, plus youth hockey in general, and everything, and especially players coming up from Murray County as well. And then it's so just southern Williamson County is the perfect area for a spot like this. And so next question leading into this is, in terms of facility wise, how many sheets of ice are you planning on having there? Is it just the main arena? Was there a secondary sheet as well? So what's the facility going to look like when it comes to hockey?
Yeah, so we have two full hockey sheets and one full ice sheet to not only drive youth hockey. We're in talks with possibly forming a junior hockey team locally, and obviously, in talks on figure skating and other sports. There's a couple smaller Olympic sports that are interested in being involved in the facility in regards to ice time. So, we're looking to touch the gamut of use of ice, but obviously, I've heard anywhere from 75 to 85% of travel hockey, youth hockey, lives in Williamson County. And so it's really tapping into that main source of activity and driver, so that, families that live in the area don't have to drive 45 minutes to Antioch or 35 minutes to Bellevue, each way. That they have something in their backyard that they can use that is frankly, we're trying to create the best facilities that we possibly can. And kudos to Franklin. They don't really allow you to cut corners when it comes to design. And I have a design background, so the intention of the development is for it to be not only functional but very beautiful, aesthetically pleasing, both to the neighborhood and for people that visit it.
Oh, absolutely. And now I want to focus on non-hockey, because there's plenty of people that have kids that don't do hockey. So to look more in the facility part of it too, indoor sports, especially like with having the courts and turf and everything there too. What are some of the other sports that you're focusing on with this facility that are also going to be attractive to parents and families here?
Yeah, so the main focus sports that we're looking at outside of junior and youth hockey, the multi-sports complex has a full-size indoor soccer pitch, which will accommodate a full indoor football pitch, as well as an infield diamond drop downs for pitching mounds and batting cages. So soccer, football, baseball, four full-size basketball courts, and which will translate into 8 volleyball courts. Cheerleading, gymnastics, lacrosse, very large badminton contingent in Nashville, which I just figured this out over the last year. So we're looking to have a great following with badminton. We are talking with Team USA Kickboxing and settling on a deal with them right now to move their headquarters up from outside of Chicago to this facility. And they were just approved by the International Olympic Committee and will have exempt status by this time next year, as well as having in-house sports therapy services as well.
Wow, that's this is going to be a hub, no doubt. Just hearing all that, it's going to be a hub, and makes people very, very excited about that too. And so the next question is, and this is, I know this was covered in a GNASH meeting, but what's the plans in terms of looking at timeline? What's the timeline for this? I know you have more meetings that are coming up. Just it seems every month have more meetings to continue to roll through the process with this for approvals and zoning and everything of that sort. So what's the timeline looking like for this facility?
Yeah, so we have some big hurdles ahead of us, right? So any of your listeners, anyone that follow you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, we would ask that if you're in support of this project, to write the board and mayor of aldermen here locally in Franklin, as well as the planning commissioners, for support of the project. Any vocality that we can get from the community is huge for this project. We have an Envision Franklin amendment vote on December 10th with the Planning Commission that will amend the land use of this parcel to its base zoning, which would be estate residential, which would be single family homes. That's obviously not what our intent is. Our intent then would to be, after that vote, to take it through 3 readings of rezoning. That rezoning would be to recreational with special uses for retail. And so through this 4-month, 5-month process, we will need support from the community, and our PR group, Calvary Street Partners, and that team there has done a fantastic job at driving traffic to our Facebook page. So I'd encourage people to go to our Facebook page. It's Franklin Sports Complex, or our website, which is franklinsportscomplex.com, to get on there, put in their information, offer their feedback, get on our mailing list. But the goal here is to really drive as much positivity about the project and continue to show the need and the want in the community. And from there, we'll have our last, if everything goes, in monthly succinction, we would have our last zoning reading in March. I anticipate it's more going to be April with the size and scope of the development. We'll have to address comments from planning. So April, May, excuse me, we will be through the planning process and then look to start construction and grading and construction. So I would anticipate 2 to 3 year time frame from that date. So we're looking at a earliest probably opening into the summer of 2023, and between 2023 and 2024. So
excellent. Well, whenever groundbreaking's announced, just make sure I know so I can be there for it.
Yeah. Frankly, I wish I could drop it on there tomorrow because I know the need is there. I mean, we hear it all the time about how we need more sheets of ice. We need more sheets of ice, and I hear it constantly from families that are excited about this project. And as all I can say is, for those people that are ardently for the project, that are willing to be vocal about it, to come out, because the more vocality we have, the more support the community or that the city sees, the more likely they are to move this through the planning process in a more timely manner, and get us quicker to construction and to getting this thing open for the community.
Absolutely. Well, Eric, I can't thank you enough for your time and letting me be the first to interview you about this, because it's a really exciting project coming to Southern Williamson County, and just for the community in general. Just as a hockey player myself, and being from Franklin originally, it's exciting to see this happen there as well, and just knowing how many families it absolutely could support, and just what it'd mean for the community there too, and alleviate just so many issues when it comes to ice, but also provide a home to expand the sport that we love. I mean, that's what's important too, is that we continue to grow the sport and grow all the sports. I mean, badminton, I didn't even realize there was that big of a contingent there too, and then kickboxing, like you said. So lots of exciting stuff, and just really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me.
Yeah, no, it was an absolute pleasure, Justin. I appreciate you asking thoughtful questions, and again, we would encourage any of the listeners, any of the followers, to engage with us on our Facebook page or our website. Any additional questions you might have, we're happy to answer them, and take down information to keep you abreast of what's going on.